Do you know who you're looking at right now? You're looking at my physical representations of Japhet, Sib, Am. And you can choose whichever one of these young men, who are all very handsome, to be the representative of whom you wish they are the representative of. With that said, I know you're probably thinking, what are you talking about right now? So, first, let me contend that the sons of Noah are triplets, which means that the genetic sequence of these young men are the same, though they are different, because we know that all people with similar genetic markers still have their own DNA thumbprint, if you will, that makes them a unique individual. So I would never say that any two people are the same just because they have very similar looks. But what I shall say is that their genetic structure would be so similar that their offspring would resemble one another. That is expounded on within the book of the Genesis in chapter 11, and it goes something like this. They say, uh, and all the earth was one lip, and there was one language to all. So that means that there was one lip. One lip means that we all speak the same way. And the one language meaning that there is no other languages. So understand, we all speak the same way. We all make the same sounds. We all make the same sounds as we speak. And there is only one language. So even if there was different languages within these sounds, there is not other languages. There was only this one language based on these sounds that we make. Thank you. And it came to pass, as they moved from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And a man said to his neighbor, Come, let us make bricks, and bake them with fire. And the brick was to them for stones, and their mortar was bitumen. And they said, Come, let us build to ourselves a city and tower, whose top shall be to heaven, and let us make to ourselves a name, before we are scattered abroad upon the face of all the earth. And the Lord came down to see the city. So this was a city, obviously. This was an established city. And the tower. One moment. And the city and the tower, which the sons of men built. Right? The sons of men. And that's important because that means that these are all men that are in on this. Not to say that women didn't cook or something like that, but these are men engaged in this activity. One moment. And the Lord said, Behold, there is one race and one lip of all, and they have begun to do this. And now nothing shall fail from them of all that they may have of all that they may have undertaken to do. Come, and having gone down, let us there confound their tongue, that they may not understand each the voice of his neighbor. So that meant to change the actual vibrations and the sounds that he is making out of his mouth. So that way, these aren't sounds that I'm used to hearing, so therefore you sound, well, different. You don't sound the same. Can't understand you. And all the people were the same. You have to understand that if the genetic sequence of these people were to be triplets, right, that means that there's obviously the ability, no matter what their wives look like, for their children, once they all commingle, to become one peoples. Yep. That's exactly what that means. So, until they're scattered, the actual mentioning of who the people are, I'm not going to say is not important, but it's a preface in chapter 10 to allow you to understand the bloodlines of the people and where they went after they were scattered. Thank you very much. So, with that said, we go to Genesis, the chapter of 6. And we go to verse 2 first, and then I'm going to go back to verse 1. And it came to pass, when man began to be numerous upon the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God, or angels, having seen the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, took to themselves wives of all whom they chose. And the Lord God said, My spirit shall certainly not remain among these men forever. Stop. So that means that the consequence for whatever just happened was because of a spirit force being given to a man of flesh who was never supposed to have it. So listen to the consequence of what happened because of the man being given this. But their days shall be 120 years. Now listen to the physical consequence, because that was the spiritual consequence. That's part of the physical consequence. This is the other part. Now giants were upon the earth in those days because they were genetically corrupted. And after that, when the sons of God were wont to go into the daughters of men, when they weren't supposed to go into the daughters of men, they bore children to them. Those were the giants of old, the men of renown. Listen, the giants of old, comma, the men of renown. So when it says the men of renown, it's talking about mighty men. You understand that? Because it says that, the men of might in the King James Version. Verse 1. And Noah was 500 years old, and he begot 3 sons, Sem, Ham, and Japheth. People, that's all I'm good for. I know that my 5 minutes is up because I'm at 6 minutes right now. So let me go ahead and say this. If you think that his sons weren't triplets, tell me why in the fact that Ham or Kam and Sem or Shem, their children, are, well, mistaking each other, for one another. And another thing I wanted to pass on to y'all. Have you ever pondered that the Egyptians that we see on those walls sometimes are actually not the true Egyptian people and they're just the fill-ins? See, I was listening to what somebody had said the other day. Made a whole bunch of sense to me as to why, if I was an evil genius, I would do it. You would only see the pictures of the people I would want you to see, so that way the phenotype or the physical appearance that you would be used to seeing now is exactly that. So I can't stress to you which part will or won't change in your mind. But I want you to understand that this pretty much eradicates any arguments about race, because until the separation of the land, which is the earth dividing in the days of Peleg, because of the people building the tower, people like his father probably, Eber, this means that what's the word I'm looking for? Because you have to understand, the triplets had sons. How different do their children look if they're triplets? Right. Thank you very much. This is why people get certain Hamitic cultures confused with Semitic culture, and certain Semitic cultures confused with Hamitic cultures. This is why Sem and Ham are first mentioned, and Japhet last, because the Japhetite races that are actually mentioned, that for sure that I know of, are the Romans and the Greeks. And in the book of the Maccabees, there's probably other ones who are Japhetite races that are mentioned to have been people located in the area. But the thing is that the Gentile become associated through Japhet. And this is why you read about him last, because the characters that the Gentiles are, I'm not saying that they're lesser, but they're not as important to the story as it is, well, to this story. It's a historical notion. It's not an overall notion of who the Gentiles are altogether. It doesn't chronicle if they feel good or feel bad or whatever about anything that they do. It's really, the Old Testimony is built for that. The New Testimony is an attempted false harmonization that, if you read the book of the Maccabees, the entire thing kind of seems as if the same turmoil that was taking place then is still taking place during that time. But that's neither here nor there. Far beyond my capacity. Thank you for listening. Thank you. This is a bombshell, people. If you didn't know, it's a bombshell. This changes everything. It changes everything for the better. not for the worse.